Okay, so last time I wired the backup camera. I just need to get the video signal temporarily tied up the cable until I could get to that, which should be today. So what I need to figure out is how I'm gonna get into the cabin. I think that there is probably an access somewhere up here in this panel up here, which I've taken off before, so I kind of know how to do that. And then it's got to come down here underneath these, I guess you call it kick panels, underneath the driver's side kick panel. Well, I guess this is the kick panel over here, and then up into the dash. So first I got to do some exploring on the inside. I think I'll start on here, see what I can accomplish. This should be a little bit easier than actually I thought. Although I had to undo the seatbelt, had to unbolt the seatbelt, and you'll need a large Torx. I'm not sure what size, but you'll need a Torx bit to undo that. That allows me to pull this away. You have to pull the weather stripping back a little bit. It's relatively easy to do. And then it looks like, though, if I wanted to get this entire panel off, I'd probably have to remove the seat. And that is relatively straightforward, but it's, since I already have a car seat in there, it's going to be a little bit difficult. You have to take this bottom seat out, which pops off. It's not a big deal. But then there's also 2 bolts and brackets on either side of the back of the seat, and then it kind of lifts that right out. But I don't think I'm going to need to do that because I don't know if you can see in here, but there is light back there. So I'm pretty sure I can, without kinking a cable or anything, I can fish the cable through there, and then down. There's another panel here, interior panel, and then down behind this panel here, and then it should be relatively straightforward just to pop this off and fish it through here. I might need to take this panel off to get access, but I'm going to try to avoid it if I can. My dog decided to join me. Frida, stay there. So she doesn't like beaks, obviously. So. But I decided to backtrack a little bit because what I realized is the hole that I was using. I don't know if it's possible to see. It's up farther a little bit. It's not really where any of the wires went through, and it was a little metal, basically metal on all sides. And it was, even though there's really not, I mean, there is a positive wire that runs through this. You know, it's video cable. I wasn't too concerned with it. I was going to just put a piece of convoluted tubing around. What I realized is I could just kind of backtrack a little bit and put the wires together, basically run the wires together. Shouldn't be too difficult. So I've pulled the wire back out, even though I got kind of farther, but it's not that big of a deal at this point. I haven't really buttoned anything up. I don't know if you've ever seen one of these tools before. It's a little grabber. It's got a little claw at the end here. For this type of work, it's going to be invaluable, especially because if you don't want to replace any panels, you can kind of put this on the end and you know, fish things in and out. I've had this for like 16 years. It's well worth the investment. It's a little beat up. I've used it for just about everything, like cleaning drains and everything. So, but for this work, it's pretty helpful. So, let's see if I can actually get this to work. Here's Yeah. Let's see here. Okay, you can kind of see where that foam is. That's where all the wires go down. So obviously there's more room. There's not going to be as much chafing. And up at the top there, you can kind of see a little bit of light. That's that little hole I was originally using, but I think there's probably going to be too much chafing over time. So I'll just, you can see I fished that through there. Let's go check, see, does it work? Hey there, Frida. And there it is. There's the wire. So now I'm just going to continue fishing it down along here like I was before. Okay, I went ahead and buttoned this up, put the seatbelt back on, tighten down, put this panel back on. And actually, in retrospect, I think, from what I know now, it could be possible just to remove this weather stripping, not even worry about this panel. And like I said, if you have some sort of fishing way to fish the line back through, you basically get enough room here, and this is where the wires come down, that once you remove this weather stripping, you should have access to that, so you don't even have to worry about this upper panel. You should be able to work with this weather stripping removed. Now I'm going to continue along over here. I'm going to try to fish this underneath here without actually having to remove this panel, even though I have a replacement panel. This one's beat up, so we'll see how well this works. Once again, I changed tactics. I was going to actually run the wire. You can see there's a gap here, a little channel here. I was going to run the signal wire along here. I actually had, one point in time, had a cell phone antenna wire that ran around there. But then I noticed actually there is these heavy-duty plastic channels for wiring that I think is supposed to protect it. The thing is supposed to protect it, you know, when you're going in and out of the car, and you know, getting wear and tear. So I debated for a while, but I did reuse this channel. I mean, I did actually stick my wire in there. Over here, it's not too bad because this flips up, and you can kind of tuck it in, and this will get you past the B-pillar. Over here, this channel here, you can see wire goes through on here. This channel here doesn't flip up here. It's actually bolted down here and here. But once you undo these, you can just, you have full access to that channel. And I was a little scared because these are rusty, and I wasn't sure if they were bolts or what, but they're actually screws. They came right out, not a big deal. And then just the two on this side, and I'm able to flip this up, get that in there. One thing you want to keep in mind is that when you do bolt it back down, to make sure it's not binding, you can give it a little tug test here. Slide it back and forth, and you can feel and hear that it's not bound anywhere. That's important also. I wanted to mention that since we're starting in the back, you want to make sure you have enough slack back here, because you don't want this to be tight, especially if you have the trunk lid down and you make it all tight. you won't be able to open the trunk lid without either ripping it or causing some damage somewhere. So give yourself enough slack back here. Make sure it never goes taut. I'll come back when I'm finished, make sure everything is secure, and yeah, I'm just going to probably put these panels back on. These just pry right up. There's no secret to these little sills here. They just pry right up and go back on pretty easy. So yeah, I think I'm probably gonna run that wire, and then it's just basically trying to find a way under the dash to the back of the radio and plug it back in. So that'll be the next step after I replace all the interior pieces.